Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. Today, we're going to talk about all about postpartum healing. So, I'm going to talk about what fitness looks like for me today, 1 year postpartum, and I'm excited to share my journey. But most importantly, I'm excited to talk about like the actual importance of postpartum healing. I know you've heard me say it before, but it's extremely important. So, we're going to talk about it today, and I'll share a little bit about where I'm at and where I'm going with my fitness and postpartum recovery. Because just because I'm a year postpartum doesn't mean I'm fully healed from birth. Still breastfeeding, so I still have those hormones. My estrogen's not back up to its normal levels, and that is to be expected when you're breastfeeding because prolactin inhibits estrogen a bit. And so I don't expect my hormone levels to really go back to complete normal until about 18 months after I cease breastfeeding. So once I stop, which will be never because this might be my last baby and I am not ready to even think about stopping breastfeeding. So I might hold on to this for as long as humanly possible. Um, but no, I'm just kidding, not forever, but maybe 5 this time around, who knows? My last 2 babies, I stopped breastfeeding around 20 months just because I was done, like, right when it gets irritating and annoying, then you're done and you're like, "Just get off of me." Um, Today when I was changing JLo's diaper, so she's exactly a year, right? She turned a year last week, so if you tuned in, you know this, but she's exactly a year, and this morning I'm changing her diaper, and we pretty much do all standing up diaper changes because I don't like to force her down, and she's standing, and her balance is okay. And a lot of times I'll just put her hands on the wall, and so I change her diaper that way. And I'm changing it, and we had just got out of the shower because, of course, she snuck in my shower, even though I already had her dressed, right? So I had to like get her undressed because she climbed in the shower and was soaking wet. And so um, second time around, I'm doing her standing up diaper change, have no shirt on. So she just comes over and, she starts nursing. So I'm like, I can't change your diaper, put the diaper on if you are nursing. And so it was like that, like attack of the nurse, when they attack your nipples and like won't let you go, essentially. Yeah. So she's starting to do that. So maybe I won't last 5 years, but maybe I will. Who knows? So, anyways, that was a total side note. But here we are talking about postpartum and postpartum recovery. And obviously, super passionate about postpartum recovery. Built my whole business on postpartum recovery, right? Body Motion was built to help people recover postpartum. So they are not the 50, 60, 70-year-old ladies with hip replacement, knee replacement, back pain, sciatica, achy joints and have really strong cores. And I'm a firm believer that if you heal your body after birth and you stay strong relatively using the right muscles through your life and activity, then you have a really good shot at staying pain free for your whole life and staying continent and not being one of the 80-year-olds in a wheelchair that is peeing their pants. And I strongly, strongly believe this. So I I think that if you think that you're going to go to a pelvic PT or your gynecologist or midwife or provider at 6 to 8 weeks, and maybe they look at your pelvic floor. A lot of times they don't. They don't even look at your vagina, right? They're like, "You're healed. You feel okay? Okay, sex you can have. You go back to the gym," right? Well, we all know that, like, at this point, hopefully there's enough education out there that says, like, just because you were cleared at 6 to 8 weeks and you're not bleeding anymore doesn't mean you're healed. And so anytime, right, the body not only has the body just like gate had a baby, so through the vagina or through the belly, there is scar tissue in all of those muscles that the baby comes out of. And so, even if you didn't tear vaginally, you still have micro tears. So little teeny tears in the muscle when the muscle overexpands and overextends. But a lot of people do have tears that are stitched or they had an episiotomy and then they're sewed up. And if that's the case, then there's scar tissue. And when there's scar tissue in those muscles, they effectively really stop working. The body bears down around scar tissue. The whole point of scar tissue is to heal the tissue and make it strong right there. But that doesn't mean that that tissue can then contract and relax again like it's supposed to do. So scar tissue needs help to heal. is where I'm going with that. Um, and so once you have those scars, they you got to heal them, right? Else you're never going to use those muscles the same way. And so you have to train your body to start using those muscles once you've healed the scar tissue. So we're going to talk a little bit about the phases of postpartum healing after at the end of this. Um, and I might have to grab a charger because it looks like my computer might die. Um, and so uh, let me get a charger shipped into where we are located currently, and I will get back to this episode. Okay, so I'm gonna stick with this here, and hopefully the lovely Isabel will bring my charger in, and we will continue to talk about all things postpartum and restoring body after kids. So, um, so when I'm talking about the scar tissue, it's not just the scar tissue you have to heal. You actually have to, your body has expanded to grow this human over 9 to 10 months. That means that your muscles have stretched, your rib cage has moved and gotten larger, your organs have been shoved back into place, or not into place, but shoved into your body and compressed, and to make room for this baby, right? So as we make room for the baby, we have thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So as we make room for the baby, our muscles expand so much and they don't just heal overnight, right? So when we have the baby, after we have the baby, not only is there scar tissue, but these muscles are extremely baggy and saggy and need to come back together. Now you might be thinking, oh yeah, well, I'm gonna wear a waist trainer or I'll just wear some compression belt to help bring myself back together. Honestly, no, that's not going to help that much. I know that's fad to do, but what that does is that increases your intra-abdominal pressure and it can also prolapse you. So it can cause downward pressure on your uterus. Now, there are some benefits to doing some of the belly binding. So, people will do belly binding, and as long as you're elevating bladder and uterus in a position upwards, then you can help decrease the risk of prolapse. But truly, what you need to do is help get your muscles and core stronger so that you rebuild that way. Okay, so just aesthetically approximating and bringing your core back together with a binder isn't going to be enough. You're going to have to retrain these muscles. And so there's a combination of dealing with the scar tissue and then also healing these muscles and teaching these muscles how to get strong again. And so the issue that happens and what we see happen is postpartum, when you have all this scar tissue, you may end up not using these muscles for 10, 15 years, right? So let's say you go to a pelvic PT, like you think you're doing yourself a good job, they clear you. They look at your pelvic floor and then your belly and they're like, yeah, you have a C-section scar and your pelvic floor looks okay. Do this, move your scar this way until it feels normal. And then, other than that, though, your body's good to go. Or maybe your surgeon told you you can't have pelvic floor PT. You had a C-section. You don't need it. And all of that is complete BS because when you don't heal these scars, what ends up happening is, yes, you may feel fine. You may not have pain right now, but the more you live not using, let's say it's a belly birth, let's say it's your transverse abdominis that was cut. So you have 7 layers of muscle and tissue that is cut in your belly when you have a C-section. When you are stitched back together, you have 7 layers of scar tissue. And they're not all on just like one path. They're actually, because you're bigger when you're pregnant, when they cut you open, everything scars back down in different layers. So you might have the scar right above your pubic bone, but you actually might, if deeper layers of scar tissue might be higher up. And so it's really important. And that's really what we feel clinically when people come in. And so if you're not using, a lot of times when that muscle's cut, you're not actually using that muscle, your transverse abdominis, until you're taught how to use that. And usually it takes breaking up the scar tissue and then training the muscle and then training that muscle to work with the rest of your body in order for you to truly get your deep core activated and healed. So, what we typically see is we see someone 10 to 15 years postpartum come with sciatic pain, and they had a C-section 10 to 15 years ago and never had therapy to heal that C-section scar and retrain those muscles. So they've been walking around not using their deep core muscles for 10 to 15 years. And yeah, you're fine for the first 5 years, or maybe it was 8 years they were okay. And then they started to notice issues. And then they're not dealing with them until the 10 to 15 year mark. And it's because the compensations that the body creates, the body's magical at healing. So the body then creates these compensations to prevent you from experiencing pain. But those compensations only last you so long. So once you kind of run through those compensations and they can't do their job anymore, then you're going to end up with the pain. And that could look like pain in your low back or pain in your hip or pain in your knee. And then you may go to regular physical therapy for the knee pain. But what might not be treated is like the actual root cause of that knee pain could be your C-section scar. It could be that you never were using your transverse abdominis muscle. And so then you didn't have that force absorption. And so then your knee took all the heat. And so that's just one example. And so you really have to get to these root causes. And to prevent all that from happening, you need to see a pelvic expert PT to help guide you on the postpartum journey. And so anyone that's just going to clear you postpartum after one visit, say you go to a pelvic PT and they're like, hey, your pelvic floor looks good. Your belly looks pretty good. Do these exercises, you should be good to go. Well, I will tell you that's also bogus, and that's not quality good care, because true postpartum healing, you have to work through the scar tissue. You have to help the muscles gain new positions in length. And so at our provider training this week, it came up that sometimes we're not catching these prolapses until the fourth or fifth visit that we're seeing someone postpartum. And the reason that is so crucial to know is because if you just went to a standard PT or a pelvic PT and they looked at your pelvic floor and they're like, you don't have a prolapse, looks like your tissue's really healing, do some scar mobilization, or, do this kind of exercise yourself and you're good to go. Come back if you have any issues. The problem with that is that they didn't work through the tightness and compensations that your body maybe already developed even at 8 weeks postpartum. Because if we didn't, when I'm telling you, when the reason sometimes we don't catch it till the fourth or fifth visit is because we're working through tightness. And this could be tightness that you had before birth, even. But this is also tightness that can happen through, just the scar tissues that are developed during the delivery. And so the body heals, scars down, then we work on releasing those scar tissues. And sometimes those scar tissues have done such a good job holding all the organs up that your body's relying on that scar tissue to hold the organs. Well, so that is all well and dandy. And maybe if you went to some other regular PT, they'd be like, okay, perfect. You don't even need internal work. Like, we'll just start strengthening. Well, if you just start strengthening, then you run into a problem of you're going to miss the prolapse. So you need to treat these tissues. You need to heal these tissues postpartum, even if you don't have symptoms or issues, because once you start to heal them, you start to see what's really happening in the pelvic floor. And pretty much clinically, what we see is everyone has some degree of prolapse postpartum. So that means some degree of their organs have descended a little bit. And that's just really important to know when we talk about programming exercise and like getting you back to your fitness levels. Because if you have some degree of your bladder hanging low, like, you want to know how to make sure you can get that bladder to go up high. And the thing is, like, if you're just cleared after one visit, or someone checks you one time, they're going to miss it. They are going to miss it. I can't tell you how many times it's just missed. Okay. So to truly see some of this stuff, you have to get rid of some of the scar tissue first. You have to heal some of the muscles first. And then you start to see where the organs truly lie when your body doesn't have the compensations. And then when your body doesn't have the compensations, you can actually rebuild all of these muscles. And then when you start to rebuild them, then you are going to have this healthy coordinated pelvic floor and deep core muscles, the transverse abdominis and belly muscles that are going to help support you through the rest of your life. Okay. So it's it's making sure that you unlock any compensations that start to develop that are going to develop at 6 to 8 weeks postpartum because you body went through a massive event. Okay, a massive birth. And doesn't matter how that baby came out of your body, there's going to be some scar tissue and changes to the tissue that need help repairing. And then when we help repair these tissues and get all the coordination back to these tissues that need the coordination, then you develop strength. Then you can keep that strength going for the rest of your life. And you will never be that lady who pees their pants while jumping on the trampoline with their kids. You'll never be the grandma in the wheelchair because you knew how to keep your core strong. Okay. And so I think that is the magic of everything I want everyone to know. I just think there's so much out there about postpartum healing and, get with your fitness trainer who's postpartum certified. All that needs to happen. And I do believe you shouldn't just jump back into, a hit class that's not tailored to postpartum people because at the end of the day, if you're going to be doing jump ropes and stuff, your compensations might hook you up and keep you continent for a year, maybe only a couple weeks. But the fact is you're doing yourself more harm than good. So you got to break up the compensations. You have to heal the scar tissue, and then you can really start to heal the rest of the body. And truly heal postpartum. So, you know, um, yeah, that's all I got for you. But I wanted to tell you that because we, I just I have a lot of friends across the country, and I've met people in PT school, people I played hockey with in college, and I always, people will reach out all the time and be like, "What should I do? I had this baby. There's no pelvic floor PT in my town," or I went to her and she put electrodes on my perineum, and that just wasn't that helpful. She told me how to contract and relax. It's like that is not pelvic floor therapy. That is not pelvic floor healing. So we are not even gonna, it's like, yeah, don't go back there. That's not helpful. Or I was, treated one time and they were like, "Okay, everything looks fine and I'm good to go." We know that's not helpful. And so we decided that I decided that I needed to create a program because I was just sending stuff randomly to my friends, to be like, "Okay, start with this, do this, do this." And then when I see people, I'll help treat them. But when, that's not always an option. And so we developed an online program, to kind of put everything I've been emailing out to my friends for years, into one place. So I'm excited to bring that to you guys and launch that. It should be launching around end of August, and you can get on the wait list for that program. Um, I believe right now, so you can email support@bodymotionpt.com and you can get on the wait list for that program. We'll probably have a really awesome promotion to start for the first probably 5 people that buy it. So what that program is going to look like is we'll go through the actual phases of postpartum healing and what that entails. Okay. So phase 1, we'll talk about scar tissue. Phase 2, we'll talk about alignment and posture. And then phase 3 is all coordination. And we break down these phases of healing. And the reason it's important for you to understand that is so that you understand the importance of healing those issues. And so we're also this program, we talk about exactly how to heal those issues yourself. So, it takes a little bit more work to do it yourself, but totally 100% possible. Um, yes, you might have to get up close and personal with yourself, and that is good for healing. But you might not be ready for that. And, this program will go very well with you, working with a pelvic expert PT. But if that's not available, this program is all inclusive, how to heal yourself from the inside out. So then, we talk about education for healing. We'll talk about how to have a healthy bowel movement, how to fully empty your bladder. We'll talk about some visceral manipulation that you can do to yourself to help get your organs back in the right places, get them moving normally. Talk about the importance of orgasm and returning to sex. Talk about scar tissue mobilization, checking yourself for a diastasis and a prolapse. We talk about breathing, and then we give you a whole program on how to heal your own pelvic floor. And so we'll talk about what the treatment for that looks like, what it looks like to map your own pelvic floor, and to do some of your releases yourself. We give you like a full body mobility program. So, as you know, when you're postpartum, your back is tight. You might be breastfeeding, but you're definitely holding a baby. And whether you're bottle feeding or breastfeeding, like you're holding a baby a lot. And so we talk a lot about getting opened through the pecs, the chest, the thoracic spine, um, releasing some of the tightness in the hips that occurs from your body's trying to pull your pelvis back together. And then we give you a whole like progression of deep core strengthening and glute strengthening to really tie your whole body back together. And then from there, that's when you get to, once you've done this program, takes about 8 weeks. For some, it might take 12 weeks. Really, you have to be disciplined to do it, of course, just like anything in life. But once you get through this program, you will be ready for whatever that is you want to do. You might have there's some degree of healing that has to occur. So like if you have a ton of scar tissue, could have longer times. But no matter what, this program is going to get you to where you need to be. It doesn't replace pelvic floor physical therapy postpartum, but it absolutely is an amazing addition to pelvic floor physical therapy. And, if you're working with someone, I actually highly recommend also doing this program so you know that you have all the tools to keep yourself healthy for all the years to come. Because at the end of the day, like, I just had my third baby and I've been thinking a lot about like how I want to age. It's just like, I'm feeling a little old and I have been thinking a lot about like what I want to look like as I get older. I've been thinking a lot about like I could hit menopause in 10 to 20 years. I don't know when it's gonna, well, probably not 20 years, probably 10 to 15 years max. I'm 36, right? Like I could be in menopause by in my late 30s, God forbid, or, but 40 is definitely I'm going to be in menopause. And, by 50, most women have gone through menopause. So, like, man, that's coming up quick. So it's like, what do I need to do to get my body super solid after this baby so I'm ready to thrive for the rest of my life? Because how you go into menopause is super indicative about how you live the rest of your life, right? Like if you go in weak with not a lot of muscle or you go in peeing your pants, it's a lot harder to recover that and like build postmenopause because you don't have your hormones on your side. So you don't have your estrogen, your progesterone, your testosterone, all those muscle building things. And those are so important, right, for your bones. And so it's like, these are all the things that I've started to think about. Yeah, I'm only 36, but I'm a PT and I see people age all day long, every single day. And this is why postpartum healing is so important. So let's get our bodies to the place that we want them to be, and that we dream about them being. Dream about your body being, what you want it to be. Like, that's okay. That's legit. Um, I think that's super freaking healthy. And, we're not talking about size here. I don't care how much body fat you have. I don't care if you're a size 12, 14, 16, 22. Like, I don't care about any of that. I care that your core is functioning for you. I care that you have muscles on your skeleton that are going to keep you strong. And I care that your underwear stays dry. Okay. Straight up. And so I think that it's just important for you guys to like have that gauge. A little bit about where I'm at. So I started really getting serious about this in November 2021. So I had Jayla July 2020, July 2021, right? So exactly a year ago, essentially, almost exactly a year ago. And I, you know, it wasn't everything I wanted. You can hear that episode, but what it was beautiful. And I love being her mom, but I also felt in my body that I wasn't my best self. And I think that is a super common feeling postpartum. I don't know anyone who's like initially postpartum being like, I feel bomb.com. Like, let's go. Like, I don't think that's reasonable. I don't really know many people who feel that way. And I definitely wasn't one of them. But all of a sudden I had 3 kids and I run a business, right? And I love what I do, and I need to be able to bring the energy to my business, to my family, and to myself. Like, I wanted to feel good every single day. And so, I started feeling that way in November, and by December, I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna really get my core going again." And I really honed in on my core training, and you will find all that core training in the postpartum program that we have online. So our new online program will have that exact postpartum core training that I did. And then once I got to a really solid place, then I could incorporate building. So I started strength building. I really focused on strengthening. Initially, it was because I wanted to get back to running, because I wanted to get back to running so I could get thinner, leaner, right? Lose some of the body fat and just feel better in my skin. Well, now I'm like, I don't know if I necessarily want to get back to running. I think, my body's definitely not quite there, to be completely honest. Like, I'm still running heavier on my right leg than my left leg. My pelvis is still has a tendency to get out of alignment. So I'm still really working on the symmetry of my muscles to help hold my pelvis together. Obviously, I'm still breastfeeding. I mentioned that earlier. So there is, my joints haven't totally secured. So there's still some degree of hypermobility. So it's easier for my pelvis to get off whack or out of alignment. And so that's just, something that I have to keep in mind. So really what I started doing was strength training, like 4 to 6 times a week. And just, you know, if you are properly strength training, you're using your core while you're training. So, once you get to a certain level with your core and your glutes, and your pelvic floor, it's all part of the deal, right? Like, once you train the system in the coordination phase of healing postpartum, then everything you do on top of that is utilizing that. So you don't have to, like, specifically, you should never specifically just like rock out Kegels, right? Or bust out, silly non-functional exercises. You want to turn this core stabilization that we give you, all the core exercises that we give you, the health mechanics that we give you, into progressing postpartum fitness. Okay. So now I do, lifting, um, really 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes four if I'm not quite on. And then I'll do cardio. For me right now, that looks like walking. That looks like, using the stationary bike. I love my Peloton, and sometimes the rower, but I'm just really getting back to the rower, because rowing is like the hardest thing on someone with a prolapse, and I still have a prolapse. I did a lot of pelvic floor therapy, still am doing it. Obviously, I own this place, right? So I get to do tune-ups as often as I want, and definitely I've required that, to keep my prolapse at bay. Because of all the pelvic floor therapy I had during my pregnancy, my prolapse did not get worse at all. And in fact, it's still healing a little bit. So it might even recoil, um, improve to above where it was. And I'm hoping it does after I stop breastfeeding. But in the meantime, I'll just keep building my muscles, keep building my strength. And so, even though, like, my goal initially was to get back to running, at this point, like, I'm just really enjoying having strong muscles, feeling balanced, having good heart health. Like, I sound like, you know, I want to age healthy in America, right? Like, this is what body motion is all about, is prevention. And so it's like, I'm trying to live and breathe exactly what I teach, because I have seen what it looks like to get old here as a woman who's had babies and never got to heal their core, or at least maintain a healthy core. Maybe some of these people did heal their cores and then just didn't maintain it. I don't know, but I don't believe that that's the case. I really believe that no one got the tools to keep their core healthy. And if working out and lifting weights is not for you, that's okay too. I was doing a training just earlier this morning with another provider, and I was really sharing how important it is to, like, if the number one thing you do is all you do is get back, get rid of the scar tissue, get the coordination of the muscles, and then have them start strengthening some of these essential core muscles, even if you can only handle 2 exercises a day or 2 exercises a week. If you can turn on the right muscles when you unload the dishwasher, when you pick up your kids, when you go up and down the stairs, as long as the right muscles are activating, then you are getting strengthening through your daily life that is beneficial. and not going to create these compensatory patterns that are negative and could cause sciatica down the line, or other pain and aches down the line, or incontinence down the line. So really the goal for postpartum physical therapy rehab is to truly heal all the scar tissue, heal any and all compensation patterns, and then be able to teach the muscles coordination and develop some strength patterns. So then when you go live your daily life, whether you like to lift weights or run, or maybe all you can manage to really do right now is you're lucky if you go on a walk once a week, but you unload that dishwasher every single day, right? Like, as long as you are using the right mechanics to unload that dishwasher, that actually becomes an actual strength exercise. Um, I used to joke in my early postpartum recovery, like I would fold the laundry as quickly as possible, and I would time myself, and I would legit do it for cardio. So, you do what you do. You do what you can. My husband used to say, like, walking isn't cardio. Like, what? He's like, how old are you? You think walking's cardio? And I'm like, dude, once you have kids, walking is sufficient and very good exercise. There's a lot of research studies that say if you just get 10,000 steps a day, you might be better off than someone who runs marathons strictly on the weekends, because at least you're getting consistent daily movement and exercise. And really, truly, that, like, this is what health is all about, right? Like, this is what postpartum health is about. Let's get our body so it's safe to walk 10,000 steps a day. Let's get our body so it's, we have this core that can support ourselves. And yeah, so that's a little bit about what I'm up to. I still have running in the back of my head. I still think about maybe doing the Seattle half marathon this coming year. I did it after Kano. I did it after Chloe. So I feel like it's like kind of like a rite of passage for myself to do it after each kid. But I don't know. I don't know. So I'm just enjoying my path right now. I'm enjoying walking. I'm enjoying my weightlifting. And I think that's what life is all about, right? Like, let's just enjoy the movement that we can do and get to do every single day. And let's make sure that we're super healthy in doing so, so we're not developing any shit compensations. Um, so if you stayed long enough for that, you heard it. Sometimes I just can't filter myself. But thank you for joining me today. I wish you the best postpartum healing journey ever. And if you were 10 years postpartum and you think you've started to develop some compensations because A, you never healed your birth patterns, or B, that you did heal your birth patterns, but it's been 10 years and you think you've developed some other compensations because now your knees are hurting or your hips are starting to hurt, definitely get in touch. See a pelvic expert PT. Start our online birth prep or birth healing program, right? So our online postpartum healing program is super important, and that can help you even if you're 10 years postpartum. Fly in for an intensive. We've had a slew of intensives lately, and that's where we have people come, from wherever they are in the nation, and they fly in for a week and do, an intensive 3 to 4 hours a day of physical therapy here. And it's not just physical therapy, like it is intense. And it is freaking amazing how much the body can change in that 1 week period. So yeah, that's what I got for you today. Thank you for joining me, and we will be in touch. Please drop us a line if you have any questions. If you want to get on that wait list for the online postpartum program, definitely email support@bodymotionpt.com, and maybe we can, the first 5 people that email, we will get you in line for a discount for that program. So, all right, guys, take care.